Since our first introduction to Black Widow, she's always kind of had a mysterious side. Probably due to the assassinating. I mean, I might lay low as well if my gig was murderific, but since she added becoming an Avenger to her resume, there have been a lot of mysteries surrounding Black Widow's past and the overall MCU that finally have an answer. Spoilers ahead. When originally introduced to Natasha Romanoff, you'll quickly notice she's known to leave an impression. On a guy's skull, am I right, gang? It took until Age of Ultron for us to realize that much of this training came at the hands of her Soviet captors in the Red Room program. However, until Black Widow, we never had a clear understanding of how Natasha ended up in said brightly colored room. The quick answer? Human trafficking. So that's a real bummer. In the film, it's revealed that scientists identified her early on in life using genetic markers, which revealed her potential kick-assery.
Such a poser.
What markers? No more questions, we're bad Russian dudes. They purchased the child from her parents, but since we also know that Natasha's mother had been searching for her until she was ultimately killed by the Red Room to keep it a secret, doesn't exactly sound like it was a clean deal. This may be a plot point so Natasha can look back and know she was ultimately loved as we say goodbye to the character. The revelation provided at the creepy hands of the Red Skull let us know her father's name was Ivan, so no word on where he may have ended up or if we'll ever get an explanation on him, but honestly, we just want to know that Nat was loved more than what the terms and conditions were around her human trafficking. Okay, let's lighten the mood a bit after all that dark talk, eh? How about this Russian Al Bundy dude and the rest of the zany family, huh? Natasha's adopted family seems a lot more fun than the story around the original recipe, and they also introduce us to information around the Red Room and the Soviet Super Soldier program. The more we can say about little sis Yelena, the better, as their dynamic is truly charming, as they dish about why that vest is so great in the car. Then Yelena gives it to her sister in the end. It really gets you when you realize that when we next see Natasha in Infinity War, she is wearing the vest through the entire movie. I didn't realize that one of those pockets contained my heartstrings. To quote Johansson, it seems very superficial, but it actually is very unique. It's a very meaningful thing. Kevin Feige loves all of that backstory stuff and things that connect characters to one another. And as the Lord Feige giveth answers, he also createth more questions. Enter Papa Ruski, better known as the Red Guardian.
It still fits.
With him and Mother Melina raising the girls from such an early age, we get an added bit of finding out that Red Guardian battled Captain America back in the 80s. Which is an interesting nugget since our Cap was still a capsicle in the 80s. Could he mean Isaiah Bradley from Falcon and Winter Soldier, or were there just a bunch of these rehashed Caps? Something I feel we'll have an answer to in the MCU future. Meanwhile, over in Loki land, he always seems to be one step ahead of the game, doesn't he? Well, until he gets screwed over, but he is the first one to mention Dreykov way back in the OG Avengers film. As she tends to go on about red in her ledger, the Frosty Prince answers, "Can you wipe out that much red? Dreykov's daughter, Sao Paulo, the hospital fire. Barton told me everything. Your ledger is dripping, it's gushing red, and you think saving a man no more virtuous than yourself will change anything?" Early in the film, we were confused as it became clear Natasha was not Dreykov's daughter, until we actually removed the mask on the Master of Tasks to reveal, oh snap, Dreykov's daughter. She was collateral damage in Nat and Clint's original plan to bomb Dreykov and end the Red Room back in the Budapest days. Loki got Clint's secrets and tried to manipulate Black Widow on what she had clearly divulged to the man with the arrows, but Dreykov's daughter wasn't as busy being dead as she was being the Taskmaster. Which brings us back to Budapest, something we had been hearing about as an ongoing MCU mystery between Clint and Natasha since really early on. The banter as they battled the space alien Chitauri soldiers was all about how it reminded them of Budapest.
Just like Budapest all over again.
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
Okay, not exactly from what we saw, and sure, we didn't see it. Much to the chagrin of MCU nerds everywhere, but they always be chagrinning anyways. Be happy for what you got, Marvelinos, because now at least we have the context of what they were doing there. Clint was after Nat, and Nat was after Dreykov.
We're still friends, right?
Depends on how hard you hit me.
Budapest is Natasha's defection to Shield City. If travel is nothing else, is it not to travel to our own past? It was the place Hawkeye convinced Natasha to jump ship to the good guys and take out the Red Room, so really, it was convenient that S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't like Dreykov either. If all it takes is a couple arrows in the safe house wall, then clearly she wasn't about it anyways. So no, we didn't see it, but perhaps we'll get a flashback in the Hawkeye series later. Who knows? Although, they tried to de-age Clint before with this haircut, and how did that go? No bueno. However, it does explain why, of any Avengers, these two always seem to work so closely. Funny thing about Budapest, apparently a ventilation shaft hidey nest is a great way to get to know someone. You know when you're stuck at summer camp and it sucks, so you bond with the other kids in your gross cabin? It's like that, but with guns and bombs and brainwashed murder ladies. Either way, if this was her defection, then Hawkeye was probably her onboarding buddy at S.H.I.E.L.D. It went both ways, too. Let's not forget that Clint Barton named his third kid Nathaniel. Those 10 days battling their way through Hungarian special forces, hiding out in subway tunnels, and apparently playing tic-tac-toe and hangman build enough camaraderie and character that what are you gonna do after that? Not say hey in the S.H.I.E.L.D. lunchroom? They're the only two non-powered Avengers. They stuck with it all the way to Vormir, where Nat finally got the upper hand on Hawkeye. Well, if you count upper hand as certain death, either way, it hurt, okay? That moment is the pinnacle of the reason Nat came back to the Avengers. In Black Widow, she says early on that she didn't plan on it. They all broke up and that by the end of this movie, she had learned that even dysfunctional families are still worth fighting for. And she was always the heart of the Avengers anyways, so yeah, by the time a big spaceship comes in, she's up for it. So up for it, in fact, that she sourced a new super stealth plane, care of her friend Rick Mason. So this Mason guy, what the heck is his deal? They seem to know each other quite well. He was like her Q. And before any of you go down any non-MCU rabbit holes, I'm saying James Bond's Q. The only good Q. Anyways, are they a thing? He definitely was into her, right? But she only has eyes for hulky boys. Either way, now we know she was able to go find Steve Rogers and help the rest of Team Cap break out of the raft. How she avoided Thunderbolt Ross after Civil War is another question we have though, because in the movie, I don't think he was trying too hard, to be honest. He was able to find the shrinking guy and the armored flying man, but he couldn't get the one lady with buzz sticks? Come on, Ross. Maybe this isn't an MCU mystery per se, but it did strike us in Infinity War when Natasha's raven locks were suddenly blonde. We assumed it was because she was on the run from Ross, but now, in a quick shot, we see the hair dye. Rick covered her as she was just feeling a change and had to hide out, so Mason got her the hair dye. She never got around to actually bleaching it in the movie, but she was clearly committed. For the Black Widow movie though, Disney contractual red. The issue is that, as the MCU tends to do, it did leave us with a bunch of new questions, like who are Natasha's real parents? Red Skull couldn't have brought up Ivan for nothing, right? Also, what is the deal with this Mason guy? He's gotta come back, right? Did she seriously just avoid her Russian family this long? Mysteries for the next Black Widow to answer, I guess.